Okay, we are here at the International New York Film Festival after viewing the last film of the evening before our award ceremony, Empire of Shadows. And I am here with Persian producer, director, writer, Bejan Faramorzi.
Pretty good. There you go, there you go.
Now, this is a TV pilot that you created. What was the inspiration to get into creating this type of a TV pilot?
Well, I'm really inspired by antiheroes, so I always say this show is kind of like Dexter meets House of Cards. So it's very about an antihero, and it has a very, I guess, philosophical underpinning. The main character kind of struggles to what is justice and what he should do, and what is moral, and it's sort of like a slippery slope down that path of doing what's good for the masses, very utilitarian versus, consequentialism. So it very much has a philosophical underpinning. I love philosophy and psychology. My brother was a philosophy psychology major. I mostly read nonfiction and listen to lots of podcasts around that, so it's sort of a passion.
Now, how long did it take you to film this pilot?
So I shot this for over 2 years for 48 days. So 48 days, and I spent about $5,000 on it. So.
Well, look, not a bad budget, and you did a great job. Now, since this is a TV pilot, I'm assuming you're planning to do more episodes.
So I shot this, so I started this at the beginning of COVID, basically. COVID hit, and I was like, all right, most people who pitch a pilot, they usually have a pitch bible and then have like a trailer or like a teaser. They don't shoot the whole pilot until they at least get some kind of funding for the pilot. So for me, it's like, I'll just shoot the whole pilot, make a trailer out of it, just so I have a pilot to submit to festivals, but really I want funding to reshoot the whole pilot. Because I have actually a funded version script written out of this. I'd want like $1 to $2 million to shoot, actually. Because this is actually supposed to be set like in 2030 or 2040. I want to have like workbox, I want to have like futuristic settings, I want all those elements. So this is very just like a base, like feel for the series that I want to showcase. And a good way to kind of network with it.
Now, since you submitted to this particular film festival, I'm assuming that you're going to put it through a festival run in the hopes of gaining that funding?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find someone that might be interested, and I can send my pitch bible to the teaser, the trailer, and then maybe show the whole layout of season 1, and then I have 2 other seasons that I kind of want to finish this series with, because I have a general idea I want to go in at least in the second 2 seasons.
Now, you said your budget was $5,000.
Yeah.
Was the cast paid? Were they volunteers?
All the cast and crew were volunteered. So all the names you see. So the reason why I had so many crew is because different days, different crew members helped. So it was over 48 days. They're all volunteering. It's only the cast that are consistent. I mean, and even then, different cast different days. So, that's why it's a giant crew. A whole bunch of different grips, and I gave them different positions. Like whatever title you want, I'll give you an IMDb credit. We're good. At that point, because they're all volunteering. I mean. For me, again, I didn't have to shoot the whole pilot. I could have just shot a trailer and a teaser and then just sat on that. But to me, I wanted to do it for fun. There was nothing being shot when COVID hit. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start this, shoot the whole thing for fun, and it'll give me something to submit to festivals for fun and network.
Now, this is a thriller, sci-fi, the basis, and it's dealing with some interesting concepts, which I even picked up on. What was your inspiration for using the frequencies, which I caught on right away within that?
So I was mostly actually playing with frequencies. It's actually a signifier for their supernatural abilities.
Okay.
So I was trying to, one of the issues, so I actually had quite a few test screenings of this, and since I don't have the proper VFX I'd want in some of the more extravagant scenes that I have in the funded version of the script, I was trying to get across the same idea of some kind of supernatural ability occurring with these characters. I don't know if it came across at all to you. But,
Oh, no, I picked up. Why would I even ask you that question?
Yeah, and it was supposed to be a running motif. Ideally, you could add a glowing effect or some other a visual effect that give a more visceral cue for the audience. The same thing with the clone in the restaurant or the restroom. Some people actually think when I had test screenings in my house, I had a little home theater. And some people actually thought he was just crazy. They didn't know that he had ability. So there's misconception. So I had to add voiceovers, and I had lots of test screenings. I added extra scenes. I was just I got to make this obvious to the audience because the visual cues aren't there. So I didn't want to add the cheesy exposition. The original, actually, draft of this had no voiceovers at all. I mean, so it would have been more confusing for the general audience because maybe if you don't watch enough fantasy sci-fi content, you might not get the idea of a character making clones or kind of a hive mind character, which still may not have come across the main audience. I think most people get the ability of Kat, which she reads minds. They may get the ability of Brad, which isn't important because they all three gain abilities, and that's what they gain these supernatural abilities, and they start infiltrating the political system, which I was trying to allude to. It's sort of like a U.S. takeover of the political system. and then they obviously start changing laws as the season progresses. I mean, that's kind of the direction I'm going in. A very anti-hero, or at least he thinks he's doing what's right. I mean,
So as a TV, or I guess you're looking at this more as a TV pilot than as a web pilot.
no, yeah, more of a TV pilot that I want to get.
That's
picked
what
up.
your goal is with this.
Yeah.
Now, prior to the festival run, or the festival run that you are doing with it right now, had you approached any potential producers or investors who might be interested in this concept?
So
Or have they seen it?
I have no. Well, there was a guy out of LA I talked to briefly, but it kind of dead end. And like, I don't really have any direct connections to like Netflix or HBO. I feel like this would have to be picked up by a bigger network. Because anything over a few million an episode, you know, an individual producer probably isn't going to fund unless they have like a series of private funds that then would pitch it to a network if they had a connection to a network. But I don't really see this as a standalone because it's sci-fi elements with political drama. It'd be expensive. I mean, I don't see this being done on a low budget. You know.
So now, once you finish your festival run, I mean, do you have a set goal of festivals that you wish to submit to, or are you undecided about that?
To me, I'm not really worried about that. I just want to keep, so as a filmmaker, I keep making more and more proof of concepts. It's like I'm trying to build a slate of projects. So I keep submitting to festivals, and then maybe down the line, if I come across the right person, because I feel like in film or anytime you try to find someone to fund your projects, you're really just meeting people that hopefully like you as a creative person. And like, why does anybody invest in any filmmaker? Anybody can tell a story. So to me, at the end of the day, it's like, do I like you as a person? Do I trust you enough to execute the project? Do I want you to be the one to tell the story? And I'm hoping I bump into the right person along the way while I'm making all my passion projects.
Now, with your cast and crew getting the script, did they have an understanding? Did they appreciate the concept that you were creating within?
I doubt
this
they'd
pilot?
donate over 40 days of their time if they did not like the content. So my lead actor, Ty, he obviously loves the concept. He's a big fan of, so this is also inspired by some anime series called like Code Geass or Death Note, which are two very popular, very anti-hero, very about, you know, philosophy and trying to figure out what is justice along that. And so their idea of justice and their rise to power. So I kind of use the purple theme as a sense of royalty. I mean, he's a rise to royalty, his self-delusion, all the way to creating his own empire, which is the whole concept of an empire of shadows. Is again, it's all this hive mind, the illusion of choice, this illusional democracy, you know, or as I see, is the green primary now, where you have to have money to even run.
So then, outside of this particular project, is there anything else that you are working on?
I'm actually already had started my next project. I wrote a feature film rom-com musical, actually, and I have already had 2 rehearsals with my choreographer and dancers, actually, and I'm shooting a short film proof of concept based off of my feature film script. So I pulled a few scenes out of it. Very simple. I describe it as there's something about Mary meets La La Land. So a very early 2000s rom-com situational, which is completely obvious. I know this, you know, doing a sci-fi political drama with murderous intent, and then going to a romantic comedy. But I watched a lot of rom-coms as a teenager, and I was a helpless romantic for a long time. I wrote poems for girls, and that didn't work out well. But you know, I love romance and comedy, and also I find like dating stats and some of the interesting things around. I've watched tons of informational videos and content around that as well, so I find it fascinating.
Now, with this film that you're a producer, director, writer,
Yeah, I know. The list goes on. I feel like Tommy Wiseau here.
you didn't edit, or did you
I
edit?
edited the
You did
VFX.
too?
I did the post-sound mixing. Again,
So
it's-
everything really.
Well, how would I do
everything.
it for $5,000? So,
And that is the way to learn. It really is a great way for a filmmaker. The more you can put under your belt, the more you understand about filmmaking and all the process. It really gives you that edge when you're working, whether it's with a cinematographer, an
Yeah.
audio person, editor,
Same type
that
of
you
people.
know that you're
know who you're hiring.
right and getting the
Well,
job done correctly.
I'd say I'm fairly lucky because I've been making films for a little over a decade, and I've learned how to do every position on set. I mean, I own all the gear, which the overhead
Always
costs.
great.
So I have my own 18-foot box truck. I have lights, lenses, cameras. There's no rental cost. So to rent my gear would be like $2,000 a day. So I have a lot of saving overhead to be able to, and I know how to use all the equipment because I own all the lights. So a lot of the times, the reason why I shot it for 48 days is because since I'm also the DP, I'm also the gaffer, and even though I have assistants to help me set up, I mean, they often are usually students or people don't know as much, so I have to, you know how to do everything on
Okay,
set.
and one last question before we go. What camera did you use?
So a red Scarlett W, and as a B camera, a Blackmagic. So I own a red and a Blackmagic.
Oh, thank Great. Well, I want to thank you very much, Bejan Faramorzi.
Yes, you got it right.
And we look forward to seeing more of your work in the future.
Hopefully, my rom-com may get into the special. We'll see.
Good.